feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the DaneMoore NBA podcast, and we are brought to you by Prize Picks, coming at you Wednesday afternoon. It's January 14th. I think this is going to come out on Thursday morning, January 15th. I've got Britt, Robson here in the studio with me to do our Wolves at the halfway point of the season episode. 41 games into the season, Britt. The Wolves are 27-14, on pace to go 54-28, very close to that 56 win pace from 2 years ago, the team from two years ago that went to the Western Conference Finals for the first time. Sixth best offense thus far and fifth best defense if you remove garbage time. You kind of started your column today with a big picture, with that stuff, the big picture of where the Wolves are 41 games into this season. We've been talking all year, and we haven't been talking about this team like they're a 54 win pace team. How do you think people should be feeling about the Wolves' second half of the season now that they've kind of completed the first half of the season on a high?
Well, I mean, I don't presume to tell anybody how they should feel, but I feel pretty bullish about, I think that as is often the case with Chris Finch coach teams, they are coalescing. They are coming together in ways that solidify past virtues and inject some new aspects of their personality. Some of it due to roster changes, and some of it just due to players getting, better in terms of their skill sets, or, molding themselves in a different way. Jaden McDaniels coming to mind, probably foremost, in terms of the jolt he can provide the offense without necessarily clamoring to be a guy that needs usage. And yet, as you see, whenever one of the two studs on offense is out, that he comes out and really plays well. That's just one example of how this team, I think, has a lot of depth and a lot of versatility, even though two of their three ballyhooed young core have not played well at all, with pratfall, and the third one is still shaky. I mean, it's we were thinking it was going to be Shannon and some combination of Clark and Dillingham, and instead it's, I don't want to rush to judgment on Beringer, but that was a really impressive debut against Milwaukee in terms of regular rotation minutes, and Bones Hyland, who has proven my initial suspicions about him to be bogus, like, over and over again. So, I just think it's a strong team right now. They play really well together. We're not seeing the ISO, dribble, kick out that was so boring and relatively effective. Now we're seeing a lot more quick decisions, a lot more movement outside the ball, off the ball, with the ball, a lot more transition. It's just a fun team right now.
Yeah, I mean, the way the ball was moving last night right away in the Bucks game was impressive. They didn't even seem like they had that gear at the beginning of this season. They didn't. Yeah, and I think that sort of shifts the idea of what they could be for the second half of this season as they continue to further find themselves. They had their 10-8 to start the season, right? The slow start there. Like, I'd be very surprised if they started the second half of the season going 500, over 15, 20 games. It seems like they've sort of hit their stride.
Well, the defense has been pretty consistent, I think, even though it fluctuates in terms of league rankings. Defenses don't bounce up and down as much as offenses do. And Randall had a phenomenal start to the season, and I think almost personally powered a pretty high-rated defense. But it was a static defense. Offense. It was a static offense. And the difference between, they ranked fourth highest ranked in 5 October games, and then fourth highest ranked in December with a lot of games. But the difference in those two offenses, even there's similar semi-elite rankings are very, very different. And I think probably one of the best signs of the way this team has evolved and gotten better, as we just pointed out, the ball movement, the transition, the sharing of the ball, and the discovery that anyone can kind of be a playmaker if they're given the bandwidth. And meanwhile, I think both Ant and Randall still are continuing to get satisfactory amount of usage. I just think it's a good balance right now.
So is it fair to say that you do not feel like this team has the need to go out and make a move at the deadline?
Yeah, I'm pretty firm on it. Last time we talked about it, it may have been the lost episode, but I think I was not opposed to a trade because I have faith in Tim Connolly. I think if he makes a deal, it will probably be grounded in some good basketball knowledge and will be explainable. And you never know what's out there. It may be that there's something out there that is really attractive that I would think is attractive. And there may be more likely there's something out there he thinks is attractive that I would take some time warming up to. But as I look at this roster, you know, we had talked before about backup center or backup point guard. And I'm looking at Bones Hyland and Johan Beringer and thinking that's status quo and you don't lose anything. You keep your continuity, you keep your in-season continuity as well as your season-to-season continuity. You give your center of the future really important, necessary minutes, because I assume Gobert will have at least one more flagrant.
At least.
And, you know, I mean, we're going to see the need for not only the Nas Randall minutes, but the non-Rudy minutes being somebody else besides Rudy who will be suspended. But last night, again, you know, I have very low hopes or very low expectations, I guess I should say. And I was especially impressed with his ability to get the ball to his teammates quickly after a rebound, even in traffic. Yeah, Beringer. You know, he was responsible for at least 8 points that I saw, second chance points. Personally, that's a hell of a stat to come up with in your first regular rotation minutes. What was he, like plus 31 or something?
Yeah, he was a plus. Beringer was a plus 30 and Bones Hyland was a plus 41 in a game where they had to step up.
Right.
Because Bones is the deep bench Ant backup and Beringer is the deep bench Gobert backup. Exactly. So it has to some degree, even though it was just one game and I thought the Bucks played terrible.
They did.
It does have to quell some of your thoughts of the need of getting a backup point guard or the backup center thing that we've been talking about as well. The way I knew we were going to talk about this, and I was thinking about with Bones specifically. If you go out and you traded for some sort of guard who, you know, is not making a ton of money,
right?
12 million or less, some sort of guy that you could get for without really needing to trade DiVincenzo, for example. Like, what are the actual odds that that player comes in and is better than Bones Hyland? I mean, they might be. There's just variance to coming into a new team. You can't just expect to go get a guy and then all of a sudden they're here on the Wolves and they're productive. I mean, Monte Morris wasn't bad. I know that's a low bar.
Took the word right out of my mouth. You know, I do believe, given how much Ant embraces Bones and given how popular he is in the locker room and with the fan base, and given that everybody loves a contrition story. You know, I fucked up and I'm different now. And one that doesn't fade away once, you know, you've got your chance back and you're back in the firmament. You don't revert back to bad habits. Bones is a classic feel-good, you know, comeback story. He bitched and moaned and got himself basically kicked off the roster in Denver a year before they won a ring, or maybe that year. I can't remember which. I think it was a year before. But anyway, he blew his opportunity. And then in with the Clippers, just never happened. Waived right away when he got traded to Atlanta. Two-way here. Everybody knows the story probably. But what I like is that he pretty much had to be told it's okay to follow your hooper instincts every now and then if that's what the defense is giving you. He was so intent on being a point guard for this team and being a pace-oriented ball mover, which is exactly what they needed when they plugged him in. And now it seems like some games when the shooting is off or the teams are just basically inviting him to pass and kind of ignoring his shot, he needs to remind some people. And what he has over Mike Conley is the ability to get to the rim. And Mike doesn't have that anymore. I mean, realistically, it's always a sigh of relief and a good thing when Mike makes a shot from inside 10 feet. He's still fantastic as a temperature resource, as somebody who can calm a team down and get people into their sets. And he had a nice night last night with the three. He's kind of reminds me of the Finch infamous phrase about Dillingham, really good one game, man, another game, and not good at all the third game. I mean, Mike's on the other end of that spectrum now in terms of chronology, but he's almost kind of entering that spectrum in terms of what we see from him night to night. There are some nights where he just doesn't have it. And I say that sadly. I mean, there's no better human being in that locker room, both with the media and just in general as a guy. But he's not the same as he used to be. And the fact that they found somebody who I don't think I was totally off base in kind of thinking he was a chucklehead, given his history and seeing what he did in Denver, and then also knowing what kind of player he is. He was a playground dude and didn't seem like the kind of guy you wanted to be your backup point guard for a pretty stable Minnesota Timberwolves roster. And
he's just very different than Mike.
Yes, exactly.
Stylistically.
Well, pace.
Yeah.
I really do think that the column that's out today, the Wolves have increased their pace every month of this year. Their wins are played at a much higher pace than their losses are. I think the fact that they've leaned into getting out and transition more has infected the whole team with kind of a vibe, a movement vibe that to me has been really positive. I think it's one of the best things about the first half is finding that gear and then finding the catalyst to make that, that ignition switch his bones. And even when he wasn't shooting well, his net rating was still really high because he was moving the rock and he was getting it over the half court line with like more than 16 on the clock. And all those things for bench guys like Clark and Nas and people who move without the ball as a second nature, that's exactly what you want. And it's just a good fit. It just happened to be. And kudos to Tim Connolly for going back and taking the second chance both last year and this year.
I want to go back to Mike for a second because as we're somewhat talking about potentially making trades, could you see them trading Mike?
I suppose. I just don't know. First of all, I think he took a discount to stay. 2 years at 10 a year for somebody like Mike Conley 2 years ago. He already paid for his salary last year, both years of this. I think he was a $20 million player in many respects last year, even though he had obviously taken a small step back. I think he wants to win a ring, and if this team was floundering, I think he would deserve the shot at going to a bigger contender. But the way the Wolves are playing right now, I just don't see him getting regular rotation minutes in both the Spurs and the Thunder have a crowded backcourts. And he knows everybody here. He's somebody who is a great mentor. and Dillingham and Bones can both learn a lot from him. DiVincenzo, I mean, I saw him with J-Mac in the hallway after the Spurs game, and you know, a lot of love there. You know, anybody who's played with him, you know, loves the guy because he's a font of wisdom. He's a sensei, you know, he's a sage.
So I bring it up because if you want to make a trade for a player that costs more than $10 million, the Wolves need to trade a player who makes more than $10 million. I mean, Dillingham makes 6.5.
Right.
Shannon makes 2.5. Bones makes 2.5. Ingles makes 2.5. Miller makes 2.5. Clark makes 2.5. I mean, I guess theoretically you could put 4 or 5 of those guys together and get up to $10-12 million, something like that.
But also, I think it's important to note that he's an expiring.
Mike.
I mean, in the clear, you know, in the calculus of cap management, I think he is valuable now to other teams as much for the fact he's an expiring contract.
Sure. Oh, for other teams. Yeah. I'm just thinking about trading for a $12 to $15 million player.
Yeah.
The Wolves would need to include Dante DiVincenzo or Mike Conley in that trade. And the way that Dante's playing, and even if you went and got that player, that Kobe White, that Colin Sexton, whatever, you would still want Dante DiVincenzo. It might be the case that DiVincenzo is just better than both of those guys.
I think Dante DiVincenzo is better than Kobe White in terms of all-around fit.
So that's what I'm saying. If we draw a line through DiVincenzo, then at least for that type of player, maybe it makes sense to trade DiVincenzo if you're doing so for a 30, 40, $50 million player, as the position the Knicks were in, you know, when they were trading for Towns. I think trading DiVincenzo only gets palatable then.
Right.
So if you're the Wolves and you want to make a move, which I think they would want to, I think they would want to bolster, you know, the bench. The question is, can you only bolster by getting a $10 to $15 million player? If so, then you have to send Conley out. I don't know. It's a ruthless business, and guys get moved in situations.
I agree with all that. Again, though, they're 6-1 in January. They have a 123 offensive rating. As long as Rudy is around, they're going to be good on defense. I guess, another playmaker, but they'd have to be incorporated. And again, you're messing with Bones then to some extent, inevitably.
I got a name.
Okay.
Vince Williams from the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like $2.5 million. So that's like, I'm more focusing on those
Pippen
type of guys.
Jr. I mean,
sure.
I actually prefer Scottie Pippen Jr. just because he's a really good defender.
Well, he was a good defender too.
Yeah, I know.
It's just, again, that's what I'm looking at, because those guys don't make that much money. You could get that player for Rob Dillingham. Those type of players.
Exactly.
For Rob Dillingham.
I think that's the kind of deal I would much prefer.
That's what I have my kind of vision home.
I think TJ Shannon has got Grizzlies all over him. I mean, you know, he's a rough and tumble barger kind of guy.
I don't even know what Grizzlies is anymore.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I mean, and Jalen Clark for that matter. I mean, if you really,
they got his doppelganger over there.
Exactly.
Jalen Wells. Put both of those out there.
I know. Well, that's the thing. I mean, the Grizzlies are kind of lousy with those guys. You know, they have a lot of those guys. Again, I just keep coming back to the idea I'd stand pat. You know, I'm certainly willing.
Why not trade Rob Dillingham for a player who can be your 8th or 9th man?
I'm
not saying.
That's a good question. I guess because I think that the guy running the show isn't ready. I think that Tim Connolly does not want to throw in that towel. And, you know, I mean, there are flashes. Now he had it was garbage time, and he can't be enlivened by garbage time. I mean, he was a shooting fool the other night, and almost like a, FU to the whole idea of putting me in this situation, which unfortunately doesn't help. there are parts of me that he's got an NBA first step that is legit and helpful. I do think he works hard on defense, and if he has a really good rim protector behind him, he can be more than serviceable at that end.
I mean, it would be selling low as you really could be. I think that's the case against selling Rob. I'm just saying, looking at the numbers and stuff like that.
Well,
like
his restrictive free agency, when is that? Is that next year?
No, 2 more years. I mean, he's in year 2, so you'd have
years 2,
3 and 4,
Right,
and then he'd be up for a new contract.
And
I'm just saying,
maybe Leonard Miller has some value too. I mean, he's one of those guys that it's better on the stat sheet than he is to the eye test, in my opinion.
yeah, but the stat sheet is filled up during garbage time. He's never played a real minute.
I'm
just, like, those are guys. Just Rob and Miller. If you traded them together, that's $9 million. You could go get a $9 million player. And so I get your point of standing pat. Like I hear that, and I'm mostly with that. But if you are going to the championship, if you envision that your team can do that, really be a contender, I would just be surprised if they just stood completely pat. When 2 years ago, I mean, it was just Monte Morris, but I got to think they at least do that. Today's show is brought to you by Treasure Island Resort and Casino. And this Saturday, January 17th, Kyle and I will be hosting a watch party for the Wolves rematch against the Spurs at Treasure Island. The game starts at 7 p.m. and we will be in the Parlay Lounge. That's where the watch party will be going on. There's free food, prize giveaways, appearances from Crunch and other Timberwolves people. But before the game at 6 p.m., an hour before, from 6 to 7, again, in the Parlay Lounge, Kyle and I will be doing a live show, and we will have an appearance from the Crunch Wears No Pants crew joining us. They're going to be on stage talking with us on the pod as well. And if you want to even get there an hour earlier, there's a happy hour from 5 to 6 p.m. Good time to just hang out. Football will be on. We'll answer questions, or just be there hanging out. So 5 p.m. happy hour at Treasure Island in the Parlay Lounge, 6 p.m. live show, again, in the Parlay Lounge, and 7 p.m. Wolves Spurs watch party. I really think it's going to be a fun night. I know a lot of people have booked rooms for the evening at Treasure Island if you want to make kind of a night out of it. If you would like to do that, you can use the promo code WOLVES on Treasure Island's website, and you'll receive 20% off your one-night stay on Saturday. Visit ticasino.com for more information. Coming out to Treasure Island this weekend.
See, and I think
maybe that's not Rob.
Here's my devil's advocacy on that. Do you or do you not want Mike Conley in that locker room during the playoffs?
Oh, you do. I'm saying he doesn't need to be involved if it's for a player under $10 million.
Okay. And so I would say that I would choose Shannon over Dillingham simply because I think Shannon has a higher upside, which means he might be able to get you a Scottie Pippen Jr. that I don't think they would trade. I don't think they'd trade Pippen Jr. for Dillingham, for example.
So you're saying you think Terrence Shannon Jr. has more trade value than Rob Dillingham?
I do.
I don't know about that. He was the 8th pick. I mean, neither of them have really played.
But Shannon has demonstrated he can be really good on an NBA court in ways that are he's got,
I get what you're saying. He's 25.
He's got a lower ceiling, but he's got a much higher floor.
I mean,
maybe that's what you want. You know, if you're looking for a middle end of bench guy, 9, 10, 8, 9, 10, 7, 8, 9, then I think you want Shannon. If you're looking for a potential 6-man spot starter, I think you're looking at Dillingham more.
Okay. Yeah, I
think Dillingham could actually be a poor man's bucket off the bench. One of those little guys that I think he's always been most comfortable being a shoot first combo guard who can also get you dimes, but mostly get you dimes after he's attracted people because he's shooting and driving so well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think I'm saying something similar to you and standing pat in that don't trade guys from your rotation.
Mm-hmm. But again, I don't like the idea of just trading guys to trade them. I mean, as you said, they even Monte Morris last year, but Monte Morris became awkward. I mean, he wasn't like, oh, you could just get this guy and have him hang around. He was a proud vet that in hindsight, maybe closer to the end of the line than people realized. You have to get the right guy. If you got a Nikhil or somebody, if you got a guy that other teams would regard as a throw-in. And by the way, I see these teams. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head now, but like the 8 through 11 guys on some of these bad teams that have kind of been shelved because they want to emphasize their younger talent, their new draft picks, or it's a new regime coming in and they've kind of discounted, who they had before, or for that matter, I mean, this is kind of ridiculous. But I mean, I saw Cole Anthony enter the game the other night.
Yeah.
How much is he making a year now? Is he 20? Is it 6? I mean, I have
he's
no
on
idea.
Minimum.
Is it really?
Yeah, because he got bought out and then signed with the Bucks. I believe that he was making like 12, but I'm pretty sure he got bought out and then was with the Bucks. But yeah, I
mean,
those
there
are the type
guys
of players
like that, just kicking around, and maybe Tim Connolly knows enough about those guys from all his contacts. The guy is a ceaseless conversationalist with everybody around the hoop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his intel is as good as, from what I've heard from everybody who knows him, and I did a major feature on him a year ago, but everybody around the league says he knows what everybody else's agenda is.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really helpful because he knows what kind of a deal to structure that will help both sides. And that's the kind of guy you want to make a deal with. You don't want a guy who wins every trade. You want a guy who shares every trade.
Mm-hmm. And I just think that's, in my opinion, the lens to look at it through.
That would be great.
Is that's how he's approaching it.
Right.
He's going to know this. He's going to have his short list of guys, and it's just going to be interesting what level of player that short list is. Is it a $4 to $8 million player? Is it $12 to $15 million players? 25, 40, whatever it might be. It's just the higher we go on that number of the salary coming back, the more real rotation pieces like Dante DiVincenzo that you're letting go of there, which is why, again, I'm intrigued at this time right now to look at guys who are still on their rookie contracts and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Someone like Vince Williams.
Well, 6-1 in January, I think certainly has put a damper on wholesale changes.
For sure. Well,
and that's the thing that, it wasn't that long ago. New Year's Eve was 2 weeks ago today.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And everybody was going, okay, after Brooklyn and Atlanta, this team has got a character issue. I wrote about it. They were an unlikable team. Ant was ready. Apparently, looked like walking off the court after saying that's Tim Wolves basketball, lost before. Dante basically calling out the whole feel of the locker room. And since then, Finch and Ant, who have that kind of relationship, that is, I've said this before, if there's a reason Chris Finch is here, it's because he knows how to coach the keys to the franchise, being able to get Ant to rise up and have he's had a phenomenal, out in the day, of course, but his first 6 games of January. So the column I wrote basically was about the fact that the San Antonio game and the Milwaukee game back to back, given all the circumstances, one being Julius Randle being able to shut down Wemby for 3 possessions in the fourth quarter. And then when I looked it up, having in crunch time, in clutch moments, the Wolves defense is 102 points allowed when Randle's on the floor. I've seen that guy use his bulk only when he puts his mind to it, but it's very similar to Ant. His ceiling as a defender is a lot higher than people well.
In man-to-man defense, if there's no screen involved, they're very similar in that.
And Ant is probably, if anything, overrated because of all the great things that Ty Lue and other people have said about him that are enormously hyperbolic. But and Randall is underrated. I think Randall is underrated as a clutch defender who can wall you off. And I got to tell you, as that helps the backup center equation. When you get that, and it can't be everybody, but
not in pick and roll coverage.
No. Well, and again, it's and not occasionally when he's got his mind on other things.
Right.
I mean, you know, how many he leads the team in blow-bys, and that's a competitive stat on this team, you know.
But to your point, at the end of games, and the defensive rating at the end of games is really good when Randall's on the floor, and clutch games, those are more often just guarding your yard, right? Like man-to-man defense in those
situations. It is like it's when everybody mainlines adrenaline for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And his adrenaline rush is really, really potent.
I think there's three big storylines from the set of games over the last week. I'll let you pick, and we're kind of getting into the Wemby one. But one, there's the debut of Beringer and Milwaukee.
Yep.
He had 13-5-2 last night. The Wolves come back against Wemby and the Spurs. And then I think the third one is just how well this team is playing right now, and you know how they seem to have a real belief in themselves. I think what's happened in these last we talked about 2 weeks ago, where like this team has a character issue and stuff.
Right. It did have a character issue.
But the way they've started talking to us has been very different in the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
It's been on repeat. These guys saying, we are a very good team. We believe we are a very good team. That's not something they were saying a month ago.
Absolutely. And they were, I think, honestly searching, just as we were, you know, we were searching for clues from them as to what was going on. And they were pretty much telling us, you know, we just don't have it right now for X, Y, and Z reasons. And I really do think that ISO ball had played itself out. That's my theory. I mean, it's biased by the fact I don't like it. But also, I think it has limited upside for chemistry.
I would say they're still playing ISO ball all the time. I think what they're doing and what you like and what is better is when they move from isolation to isolation faster. This is an isolation team. This team is, I mean, they're running floppy and they're having Dante or Ant or somebody come off of down screens. But for the most part, it is me versus you, isolation. If it's there, I'm going. If help comes, I'm kicking. You know, they are and always will be an isolation team.
Well,
but there's degrees of it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that, but they don't run isolation transition by definition.
Sure.
You know,
no one does.
So there's that. And I think that is, and I think they run a modified transition offense in the half court more often, if that makes sense. I mean, everybody's coming down, and before you get set for an isolation play, I think the ball is moving. It may eventually wind up as isolation, but that's only because they've found the matchup.
Yes.
You know,
which is a good thing. It's still isolation.
It's a great thing. Yeah, you could say it's isolation, and it is, but that's different than how often in October, November did we see Ant and Julius waiting to see what kind of double team was coming, or whether or not they were going to be able to just shoot. Those were the only two options. And what we see now is they both are surveying the floor, and they both are appreciating the fact that they can be in a better position if they get off it and reposition.
That's true.
And that is enormously helpful because it gives touches to people. I mean, Jaden McDaniels has been like, you know, the forgotten cog a lot throughout his career. And in his own, you know, sullen, silent way has basically said, you know, well, you keep telling me I'm going to get more touches. I don't know, you know, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. And And every now and then he seizes the reins and reminds everybody, especially this year. But if you don't have that modification on that static ISO, you're not going to get the best of Jaden McDaniels. I mean, in fact, that's a great way to do the Spurs game if you want to get into the Spurs game. The way that they have when I went back and I didn't watch the games because I watched that first Spurs game 3 times because it was so interesting. So I didn't need to watch it again. But when I looked at the box scores and the similarities, it was very, very similar. The only difference being is that Rudy wasn't just shelved for the 17 minutes, but they did use McDaniels as like a zone wild card, guard the jitterbug and the rim at the same time. I mean, the only 2 times that really had its full flower were those last 2 Spurs games where he was fantastic. He would just stay in there when Fox would circle around the thing and would, kind of
stay in the lane.
Yeah, well, he would lurk he would poach blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to do that, I think, because either they were in a zone or they were in a matchup that he knew Fox would not be left alone. It just felt like,
I think it's the room that Finch allows him to freelance and the trust that he's kind of given to understand where there's 9 seconds left on the shot clock.
Right.
Like maybe it's going to get back to your guy, Fox.
Right.
And
And DiVincenzo's doggedness of covering other people. I mean, one of the things I've noticed about DiVincenzo is he doesn't believe in man assignments when the clock starts to wind down. He really does begin to think about disruption rather than coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, I mean, his gambling instincts have gotten away with it. He hustles. But anyway, I love the fact that McDaniels becomes so crucial because Rudy's not going to be around someday. And the prospect of McDaniels being this rim protecting wing stopper is just delicious,
I think he'd be the best matchup on Wembanyama.
Yeah. I mean, until by then Randall will be gone. I mean,
I mean on Saturday. It's not Julius Randle. Julius Randle did a good job. And he moved his
you kind of have to, but
Randall, I know it's gonna be,
but Randall
Julius.
might be in Wemby's head. I mean, Randall is a bully.
Absolutely, it was great.
And Wembanyama is a stick. And so basically, if you could put a bully on a stick and know that it's one of their best offensive players, and this is otherwise a mediocre defensive player, but it's a good matchup.
Mm-hmm. No. That's why it's the best move for them because if you put Jaden on Wembanyama, now is Randall guarding Fox? No, that doesn't work. But I think Jaden would, and if it was a playoff series, will be somebody they use there as much as they can.
I'm not sure that, I mean, Wembanyama was shooting over Rudy. I'm not sure that even Jaden can get up that high. I think what you have to do is take away his lower body. And I'm not sure that Jaden is that as good as that as Randall is. I still like the Randall matchup, provided.
I like it too.
Yeah. No, but I meant you said McDaniels would be the best guy on Wemby.
Yeah, far and away. Not even close.
See, I don't think
he's the best defender. I mean,
he is the best defender, but he's not the best defender on this particular guy.
He was on Friday or on that game. Randall did an incredible job on Wemby, and he should be. But it's like saying the guy who made 6 threes in the last game is the best.
No, I understand what you're saying. I know it's an incredibly small sample size, but I've seen Randall do that to other people too. And I do think what happens. Did you see Wemby do that play where he like dribbled between his legs for about 6 times and waited for Rudy to bite? And then when Rudy lunged, he Euro stepped around him. Randall's just going to wait him out and continually move closer and closer until he's knocking him over.
Right.
And I think that is not something Wembanyama is used to.
Right. Well, and the idea of, I mean, Rudy wasn't out there when Randall was guarding him at the end of that game, but you could have some of that Jokic sort of idea where
exactly
Randall's on him and Rudy's kind of lurking for help.
I agree. I think one of the things I worry about with Jaden is that Wembanyama is already pretty good at drawing fouls. And if Randall gets in foul trouble, it doesn't bother me as much as if McDaniels gets in foul trouble, because I do think there are ways to compensate for Randall's absence on offense. I think it leaves a bigger hole on the defensive side if McDaniels gets in foul trouble.
Sure. Yeah. And somebody's got to guard Fox.
Right.
And so
but that, I think you and I once agreed that those little jitterbugs sometimes give McDaniels the most trouble.
That's why, I think the two worst players that Jaden is at guarding, I didn't say that right, are De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
Because they're like
Max,
the two fastest.
Right. Maxey, that's right. I forgot about Maxey.
It's just the speed there.
Yeah. Right.
So it leads to the Spurs chessboard is an interesting one.
And we need to say that they are, Castle and Harper are not going to shoot a combined 1 for 15 again.
Yeah.
They got lucky with the idea that both those guys couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
And Vassell didn't play.
Yeah, that's right. Good point. Who was kind of like their skeleton key on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He and Keldon Johnson are both kind of that way. One for the starters and one for the reserves. Guys who they're glue, but they're also an accelerant.
Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks, and at Prize Picks, you can now use the Teams tab to pick winners or make picks against the spread. The Broncos are 2.5-point favorites against the Bills on Saturday. The Seahawks are 6.5-point favorites over the 49ers. The Patriots are 3.5-point favorites over the Texans, and the Rams are 3.5-point favorites on the road in Chicago at the Bears. You can make picks on all of that and more over at Prize Picks. And if the NFL isn't your thing, they got all the other sports. They got NBA on there for sure. You can pick winners for NBA games. You can pick against the spread for NBA games, and you can pick totals amongst other things in NBA games as well. Like I've been saying, I think the awards tab is fun there. Keep tabs on the MVP race, or maybe a little bit more relevant for the Wolves, the Defensive Player of the Year race. Rudy Gobert is currently 4x on your wager to win Defensive Player of the Year. Anyways, there's always something going on at Prize Picks. You know that on the Players tab. But the Teams tab is new and allows you the opportunity to pick games directly. If you don't yet have a Prize Picks account, all you have to do is put in the promo code DANE. When you sign up, you'll receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app using promo code DANE. I want to have a similar conversation about matching up with Houston, but first let's do a little bit on Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I know you said a little bit about Beringer, but
yeah. Well, I think you were right about Milwaukee. I forgave it as they were missing some shots and getting down on themselves. Plus, I know they were coming off a really long, grueling road trip in town for one game and then leaving again. That just feels like another road game. And when it's in front of your own fans and you don't have the energy for it, I just got to think it's a dispiriting game. Plus, I think that
a lot of Bucks games kind of look like that.
But people have been telling me, and I've been very resistant to this idea, because I think you believe Giannis. What Giannis tells you, you got to believe. And people are saying, yeah, but there are times when Giannis doesn't have his heart in it this year, some games. And I apparently have not seen enough of that. Oh, I saw it the other night. I mean, he fell down underneath his own rim and the ball kind of rolled away from him, and he watched the guy pick it up and lay it in. I mean, and then got up fine to get the ball. Very, very, I mean, you don't want your alpha superstar to be playing like that. Yeah. And the difference between the way he played in the first half and the way he played in the second half was damning to the way he played in the first half. Right. Because he clearly looked like he was playing at half speed. Mm-hmm. So it was a diseased team. And also they led the NBA in 3-point percentage coming into the game, and they were off early there.
Credit to Julius. Good defense on Giannis too, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. Julius has had a very, very good stretch of games in January, as has most of the team. But he has he's become, he's bolstered his weaknesses.
You got anything else on Beringer, or do you cover all?
Beringer, what I love about Beringer is that everything they say about him, people talk to us all the time because we don't know and they know, or they think they know, especially guys like Matt Lloyd and, Del Demps and the guys in the front office that are not necessarily Tim Connolly. And they're just genuinely excited about the fact that his raw materials are really, it's like when you find gold, well, it's not just gold, but it's like rich ore, you don't have to dig a lot to find the good stuff. You just have to refine the good stuff, but it'll take less effort. He's 18 years old and they do not
19,
look at
19.
him.
There was a lot of 18 yesterday.
19. I think Alan Horton might have said it on the broadcast.
Which that's fine.
Yeah.
He turned 19 in November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. So anyway, he's a teenager, and you think a teenage 7-footer, 6'11" guy is going to take 2 or 3 years. The Wolves brass don't think that way. They think he'll be a rotation player next year. I'm pretty convinced.
Mm-hmm.
And which is another reason why I think a trade, at least for backup center, is less likely. But I do think what I saw from him in that Milwaukee game, getting back to your question, is a lot of what they talk about. That he's a sponge, he's a quick study, he never stops hustling. He's an enabler. His instincts are to make his teammates better rather than do something great himself. He just is the kind of guy that I understand them wanting to keep him up here and send him to Iowa only sporadically because he can learn from Gobert and they can keep instilling this, whole character idea. He doesn't have to, go to Fargo or Sioux Falls or, some place in the middle of nowhere and play in front of 400 people. And
well, all they need him to do is do more of what he did in that game yesterday.
Absolutely.
We're not even thinking about a jump shot or those sort of things now. And to that end, he's probably not like a super high ceiling player right now. I don't think we're seeing some sort of, progression towards a superstar. But I think what they're so excited about is this idea that that's what this team needs.
Not
and he
only
will
that,
do it.
But that's what this team is used to. This team is used to a low usage, dedicated rim protecting center who that's a great example, is very, very consistent in terms of his preparation, his approach to the game, is a mature individual.
Right.
And Beringer is an old soul when it comes to his approach to the sport. You can tell that already.
Right.
And that's what gets them excited, is that not only is he Rudy's heir apparent, but the genes are similar. It's heir apparency is in the DNA.
Finch was on KFan this morning talking about Beringer, and PA asked him, did his play give you something to ponder about rotations moving forward? And Finch said, so it was a long quote. Yeah, well, but it was interesting. There's interesting nuggets in there. Finch said, quote, "Oh, he's definitely given us something to ponder, and it's things that we've been pondering anyways. I'm not saying we're going to insert him into the rotation and he's going to play 20 minutes a night. As much as we'd love to, those minutes would still come at the expense of some really good players. So everyone is going to have to kind of give up a couple of minutes here and there. We have the ability to maybe move Nas to the 3 as well. Hey-o. I think that creates some opportunity for Yohan to play. But moving forward, we are going to definitely look at things. We've been playing a bunch of these younger guys earlier in the season. We've got a bit of a rotation right now that is really clicking. We've got to be mindful of how we do or do not disrupt that. But we certainly are going to continue to find opportunities for Yohan to play. It just might not be on a nightly basis. But everything is on the table right now. It's a long season. Teams take injuries. They do a lot of things. But it's certainly a great first step."
Yeah, that's a good synopsis. I'm glad you mentioned that to me.
It's the right approach, right? Like, I don't
Absolutely.
think you're not here saying he has to play in both games this weekend, right?
I am saying that you don't go out and get you don't go out and get the 2025 equivalent of Greg Monroe. You
Yeah,
know?
right.
I mean, you
Or when I was throwing out Robert Williams a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago,
I
I
know.
kill that. Like,
I know.
you got
much as I
this.
love Time Lord. I
Right.
mean, yeah. I mean,
And how limited your resources are, right? If you go and get a
Exactly.
backup
And
center,
Gafford,
you can't
you
go
know,
get
yeah,
something
yeah.
else. Yeah, no,
yeah, actually, there was some really intriguing center. You know, somebody I don't want to make a deal, and I wouldn't. But Gafford and Williams were two that were. I
Yeah.
mean, those are whoever gets those guys, if they are available, and they have to make the salaries match, are going to be better teams,
right.
provided Williams stays healthy.
Let's talk a little bit about the Houston matchup. I think this is really interesting. It's
going to be it. Well, I'm the guy who said the Wolves should be regarded as underdogs before last night. So take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. I think Houston is a bad matchup for this team because they live on the offensive glass, and this team does not consistently do a good job of boxing. Well, there's no boxing out, but they don't do a good job of hustling for the defensive rebounds. The Rockets have really big guys who go get it, bruisers, and they have really fast, athletic guys who get loose balls.
They get an offensive rebound on 40% of their missed shots,
which is only funny because they miss so many shots.
So many shots. Yeah, right. But overall, let me just do this quick. On the season, Houston is 4th on offense, 4th on defense, 2nd in net rating. But since January 1st, where the Wolves are 6-1,
yeah,
and the Wolves are 1st in offense and 9th on defense in 2026. Offensive rating in January for the Wolves, 127-1.
Oh, okay. It was 123. So I missed the Bucks game.
It was
no crunch time. No garbage time.
Yeah, probably been a lot of that.
Yeah.
Houston, however, has played very poorly in 2026.
Mm-hmm.
They're 17th on offense, 11th on defense, and 3-4 thus far right now. I watched them play the Kings the other day. It was brutal.
Crazy.
They are not playing well right now.
Right.
So I think it's an opportunity to jump on them a little bit. It's a big week. They have a back-to-back. Houston's back-to-back this weekend is Minnesota and Oklahoma City. So the only harder one than the Wolves have really with Houston, San Antonio. It's a really big weekend for them. They're not playing right now. But what interests me is these like different looks that Houston can throw at them. I'm curious to see what they do. Do they try to lean on the double big look of Adams and Şengün out there, where they're going to be able to, be a force on the offensive glass? They're going to be able to be physical with both Rudy and Randall, or do they go smaller and just do Şengün at the 5, which is what they've been doing? Adams has been coming off the bench,
and I will tell you that 2 guys make Rudy Gobert look silly: Claxton and Şengün.
Şengün has, yeah. I think
so. I would, if I were Houston, I would play only one big.
I agree,
because you want, if Gobert isn't there, if he somehow, I don't know, punches.
He's gonna be. He's playing. But so if they don't start Adams and they go smaller, which their starting lineup has been, they go Şengün, Eason, Durant, Smith, Thompson. All those guys are like 6'8" or taller.
Yep.
But no real 7-footer in there.
Right.
I think that's most opportunistic for them, because now it forces Gobert to guard Şengün, and it forces Randall to guard Durant probably in that spot, or forces him to guard a perimeter, Randall to guard a perimeter oriented player.
I would almost put Randall on Amen Thompson. I really would, because Amen Thompson lives in the paint.
Yeah.
And
dunker spot.
And he's a beast. I mean, that would be Mortal Kombat. And that way you'd have Jaden on Durant, which I always think is the best matchup there.
Mm-hmm.
For many of the same reasons you thought he would be best on Wemby. He is a guy who likes to hound crafty, quick release shooters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he's good at. So I would agree that I put Jaden on Durant. I guess I put Randall on Amen, because Amen still can't shoot from outside. I
Right.
know he comes and goes. Sometimes he has a good game that way.
You're playing off him. You're closing
Yeah,
short.
and then, but then it'd be all kinds of cross matches, don't you think? I mean, like Eason, they want to put Eason maybe on Ant, don't you think, or Amen on Ant? One or the other.
I think Amen would be on it. It's going to be cross matches. I mean, it's just a weird team that Houston has there. And then they're going to come in and make it weirder by going with Adams and sliding everybody else down. It's just.
Well, Adams on Nas is checkmate both ways for both teams, you know.
I don't think they'll do that. I think.
You don't think they'll bring Adams in when they bring in Nas? And
I guess maybe if they started him, if they started small, then they bring that in. Yeah. Styles make fights. I don't know.
Because then it would be Nas better be hot from outside. I mean, and we know, I mean, any Wolves fan who hears the name Steven Adams just remembers when he got played off the floor in the Memphis series.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Cat being able to do what you would hope Nas would do. But Cat at least had a jump hook and stuff. I mean, Nas doesn't do well with somewhat mobile brick walls, which is what Adams is. But you're right. I mean, I have no idea.
I just think it's I don't know how it's going to, that's what's just interesting. We're halfway through the season and they haven't played Houston.
I know.
Who is a weird, interesting matchup.
Because I always thought it was a bad matchup. I really, on the other hand, the Wolves are playing great.
And they're not. And Houston is not.
Right. And as you say, you know, they're going to be looking, as much as we think the Wolves are a heady matchup, they're thinking San Antonio and OKC. I mean, this team is still not in that top tier.
Mm-hmm.
And they may get there. I mean,
wait, which team's not in the top tier?
Wolves. I think they're right there with Houston at like the top of the second tier.
Yeah, like who's in the first tier?
OKC and San Antonio.
And San Antonio is there too?
Even though the Wolves, well, I mean, we see that the Wolves are 2-0 against San Antonio and 1-1 against OKC. But I do think I've seen enough of the Spurs to think that they just have.
I didn't watch the game. Do you see any of their game against the Thunder? I'm gonna watch it.
A little bit. That was personal. I mean, OKC was clinical and thorough.
Yeah.
And you know, they were not going to lose 4 times. And I think the Spurs are in a little bit of a slump right now. I know that their guards are much better than they played, you know, and the Wolves had something to do with that, but not everything to do with it.
I just think the Wolves, I'm not saying I would have them too, but they're just as much in the mix up there as anybody else. I think
OKC is a team.
No. Other than OKC,
of
course, OKC there.
Yeah,
but
I mean, you can make a compelling case. The Wolves are 2-0 against San Antonio and 1-1 against OKC. I'll agree with you more if they handle Houston.
Yeah,
because Houston is a foe. I mean, Houston is why the NBA is great. There's so many crazy teams, you know, and you got to play them all at some point. And
so if they beat both of them this weekend,
I
mean, now you've kind of you've pushed yourself.
Well,
up
now
there.
they're 8-1 in January against a pretty rugged schedule.
Yeah, 2 Cleveland.
And so, you know, 2 Miami wins, 1 at home, 1 on the road. You know, and some really good. It would be, and you've got Ant and Randall in a really good space relative to each other. I mean, Ant's clutch performances now. I mean, I got to think his effective field goal percentage in clutch moments now I mean, he's shooting 70.7% from the field and 53% from three. So that means he's shooting like close to 80% from two.
In the last 5 minutes of games with
In
the
the
score
last 5
within
minutes,
5
yeah,
points.
and when you need a bucket, he gets you a bucket. And that's so different than what happened last year.
Well, today's show is brought to you by Thrive Market. Healthy doesn't have to be perfect. Thrive Market makes it easy with small swaps, trusted ingredients, and personalized shopping that fits your lifestyle. It's the easiest way to make better choices without feeling overwhelmed, all delivered straight to your door. Healthy living doesn't have to be boring or expensive, and Thrive Market gets that. Healthy eating doesn't have to feel like being on a restrictive diet or saying no all the time. Thrive Market makes it easy to say yes to thousands of healthier versions of your favorites without giving up on taste or breaking the bank. With Thrive Market, they make it easy. Scan anything with its barcode scanner and instantly swap for a better for you version of that item. Instead of the struggle of trying to figure out what food fits your health goals, Thrive Market does the hard work for you. I've started using Thrive Market, and I think you should too. Try it out. Join Thrive Market with my link, thrivemarket.com/DaneMoore, and you'll receive 30% off your first order plus a $60 gift. That's Thrive Market. Join Thrive Market with my link at thrivemarket.com/DaneMoore for 30% off your first order plus a free $60 gift. Well, let's pull on that string a little bit. I mean, because that taps into the whole mid-range element of his game. I mean, what is
He's
it?
21 for 27 from 3-point range. From 2-point range in the clutch this year,
Right.
which is 77.7%. Because it's, whatever it is. And the fact that he can hit 54%, he was 9 for 14 or something, 8 for 14 from three, and gets to the line, makes 80%. 5 assists and 5 turnovers, not, ready to necessarily share the ball. But
So do you think the difference is him individually or this whole sort of idea of his teammates empowering him to do this stuff at the end of games? Because we know the narrative that is kind of that the players have put out there is we're going to play this one way for 3.5 quarters of the game. And then the last 5 minutes, ball goes through Ant always.
Yeah.
Is that why Ant is having so much success?
I think, Ant will tell you, and I don't think this is the one area where Ant will always brag, and he's right. It's about the work. And he does. It's very obvious what he works on in the summertime because it translates. And he worked on his midi. He worked on the footwork of his midi, and that is the most noticeable thing. His footwork gets him open. He does things that you think you swear he travels, and you go back and look at it, and maybe 1 out of 4 times he does.
Right.
But most of the time, except for that crazy step through that may often be a travel, I think his footwork, his pivot is really strong. I think that gets him free. Also, I do think that it was the one area of the summer, I think, where he just said, he got tired of hearing it. He hit 50. He was, let me see if I can remember from the column I wrote. He was 28 for 50 from 2 last crunch time, which is 56%.
Last year?
Yeah, from 2. Well, this year he's 77%, almost call it 78. 56 to 78 is a big jump, as is 32-3 from 3 up to 53. He's increased his shooting percentage by more than 20% from both 2-point range and 3-point range. I think that's a lot of things. I think it's the threat of Randall, the spacing that Ragu provides, McDaniels being one of his favorite corner 3 targets when he is covered. He doesn't like to give the ball away, but when he does, he likes to give it to McDaniels. And McDaniels knows that and is ready. I think for all those reasons, his clutch performance, I look forward to it
Yeah.
when it really matters.
Wasn't the case in previous seasons.
Not at all.
You know, it was.
Well, I mean, actually, it was for a while. Remember what, Ant in the playoffs was like,
sure. In the
playoff
yeah.
Ant was a real thing, except for the last 2 years where they went deep and found opponents that could stop him. And now he's had to level up to that kind of coverage.
You know what I think some of it is just doing it successfully and experiencing the success of late game offense.
Right.
And then having that be the taste in your mouth the next time you go to a late game
I agree
situation.
with that.
I mean, I know the numbers are great and all that. It is it is a limited sample size and these clutch time
Absolutely.
minutes and all these sort of things.
14 threes. Right.
Right. Like, I just think I think the biggest thing is they're not like, 3 minutes left in the game and we're up by 6. A lot of that seems to have calmed down. And I think for the reasons you all laid out there, but just more like globally with them.
Yeah. I also do think it's predetermining what you won't do.
Yeah.
He has done this very rarely, that fadeaway chuck when it's basically a white flag instead of a pass. We
used to just call that his mid-range. That's what
exactly.
That's what his mid-range was.
Yeah. And remember that, I mean, it was cool when it went in, but that like almost a runner to the right that banked in, I mean, like the Nas Reed shot that everybody thinks is cool until it doesn't go in 80% of the time or whatever. And I mean, I think he has work on his footwork and the work on Finch getting through to him. You don't have to take the shot. If you're covered, you can unload it. And maybe if you do it early in the clock, you can get it back. I've seen that too. So I think there is some teammate involvement, but I would give most of the credit to Ant, both in terms of his confidence. I mean, yes, it's true that once you make a few, your confidence goes up and therefore it's self-fulfilling, but it's kind of like you get out of a snowbank. Yeah, you're really looking forward to it again, but you still need the tires to get out the first time.
Yeah, but the tires are the belief, like I think there's just a belief that's permeating here a little bit more.
But you can believe you're going to get out of the snowbank, but if you don't have good tires, you don't. I actually think it's the opposite. I think that if you have the skill to pull it off, and then you get out, you say, all right, those tires are good tires. I'm going to get out of the snowbank every time.
Right.
And then you're much more confident in your ability to rock it or whatever, to belabor the analogy even further.
What do we miss? What else are we thinking about?
Have we said enough about Bones?
Never.
I mean, I have some atoning to do, I think. I really feel like
let's do halfway through the season atonements.
Well, I mean, it was like 10 days ago that I was ripping on him. And who knows? He could revert. But what I found most telling, he did go through a terrible stretch shooting-wise, and he was fine. I mean, he was helping his team. And he's also an embarrassment on defense sometimes. He's a shirt grabber, which is always a dead giveaway that you're not a good defender, and yet he tries hard. He works to get in the right position. Even if he can't get there, he's getting, I mean, some guys just basically just go right through him. They don't even notice him on defense sometimes. And the Wolves have to live with that. But Conley, is having that happen to him more often. It happens to DiVincenzo more than we really notice because he is rugged a lot, but he can be a lot of position and not athletic enough with good guys off the bounce. So I think it's kind of an occupational hazard if you're not really a good defender. But what he does for the pace on offense, you can see that everybody, Nas loves to play with him.
Sure.
That is, and totally not a surprise there.
J-Mac reincarnate.
Yeah, exactly. And he has a shot.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
different.
for a while. I mean, J-Mac was able to finish one year, and then they were great.
Yeah.
But and Bones is really a pretty good finisher, as well as a good shooter.
Those long arms, man. That's a big difference between him and Rob, is like being able to finish with length.
Yeah.
Once he goes to
That's
the
right.
basket.
That's right. Not getting a shot blocked. And also he's got that tilt down. I mean, he's basically perpendicular or parallel to the floor on some of these layups. I just think that to be able to find exactly the kind of small but important piece, it's like a shim on a table, the table doesn't rock anymore.
Yeah.
And that really makes a lot bigger a shim. You put it under the leg of a table.
And you like fold up a coaster and you stick it under there?
Something like that. Any piece like a wedge or something that stabilizes a table. He could be a really good shim for the offense. And that the offense doesn't wobble anymore.
Right.
And it's a small thing, but everybody.
Well, the offense was wobbling.
Happily.
It was wobbling, in that exactly. Those minutes.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so, anyway, I just wanted to get that in. I think that I think it's very, very difficult to imagine him not being in the top 8.
Oh, yeah.
If not the top 7, if it really comes down to a, gunfight between Conley and Bones, if you're only playing 7. I know it depends on the matchups, but most of the time you play Bones.
Right. Any other atonements?
Nah,
I did this with Kyle last week or something like that. Just was being wrong about Ant in the mid range.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to think of what some
in
other
the
ones.
mid range. I mean, it is important, but I'd still rather see Ant give it up. And I mean, one of the things that we haven't really talked enough about is Ant is having the best finishing of his career.
Yeah.
And getting to the line. I mean, that.
I think that's tied to the mid range too, man.
I know that's true, but I think it's also, it's just good spacing. Julius, the gravity of Julius has really helped Ant. You got to credit Finch for that because, and it's easy to forget about Rudy because he was out the last game, but he's had one of the best 10, 15 game stretches of his career. Let alone
that was one of mine, is that he could get back to this level defensively. Didn't believe
Never
that.
expected it.
Right.
So to sum up, I haven't been this pro Timberwolves since like
92.
No, it was 2 years ago, but it was after they had a little fade in January 2 years ago, January of 24, the 23-24 season, where they went like 30-6 and then lost 3 out of 4 or something. And then they righted the ship. And again, we're really good. That's when I just said, okay, it's just a blip. They're not a bad team. They're not about to fold. I probably need another week to be back there.
Mm-hmm.
If they can win one of 2 and be really competitive in the other on this Texas trip, I think that will help. But I'm in a really good spot. I already regard them, because that 17-4 finish was against a weak schedule last year. And I still wasn't totally sold on Randall until the first 2 playoff series. So I think this is the highest I've been on this team, certainly in the last year and a half. And they have a chance to be, regarded as a legitimate championship contender. They are close right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they just need to do another 2 or 3 weeks of what they've done the last week or 2.
Much be easier said than done, difficult.
Much easier said than, well, we talked, a week ago, they're going to have some blips. They're going to, and they lost, a noon game in Cleveland. I mean, if that wasn't the tee up, but that's the only one they've lost.
They were 30-11 2 years ago, 41 games into the season. They're 27-14.
Yeah, only 3 games back, which if you consider that they were hound dogs.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my giddy up call I wrote in November.
Yeah.
I mean, they were so clearly ready to roll 2 years ago.
So then that means they went 26-15 the second half of that season. Cat was out.
Yep.
But that's when he had the meniscus thing or whatever going on. Missed a lot of time there. Came back at the very end.
Yeah. That was
what movies is made of. Yeah. But yeah, 27-14, 41 games in, top 6 on both sides of the ball. That is a contender. In a convoluted Western Conference and in a league that I think has a handful of teams that deserve contender status, the Wolves absolutely deserve that.
Right.
As much as, I don't know, as much as Houston and San Antonio for sure.
And we did forget about Denver, who continues to win games, has a better record than the Wolves with like everybody out.
No, that's crazy.
So they probably need to be considered.
It's going to be a really fun second half of the season, especially in the top of the Western Conference. And I think all these teams are going to take it seriously because there's if you end up being 6th,
right,
there's a big difference than 2nd,
right.
And it doesn't feel like it's going to be that many games between those 2 spots with those teams. Though I don't know, maybe I'm putting the Lakers in there and they've kind of fallen off a bit.
Can you imagine? I'm just thinking about this: a front line of Jokic, Peyton Watson, and Aaron Gordon. That would be a team that could whoop Houston. Really, I mean.
Well, now that Gordon can shoot, that's such a skeleton key for them.
Yeah, and now that Peyton Watson can shoot.
Yeah, well,
Peyton Watson, he's had like 3 30-point games since Jokic went down. Yeah, I don't even know if he had a 20-point game before.
He Western Conference Player of the Week.
I don't know what happened to that dude.
Well, opportunity.
Yeah.
Opportunity. And those just kamikaze drives.
But he was getting opportunity when they lost Bruce Brown, and Christian Brown was the only guy coming off the bench 2 years ago. He got a lot of burn and just was a mess offensively.
He's getting the Jaden McDaniels comp out there.
Yeah, that's
Your
a
guy.
good comp. Yeah. And you got to love him. I mean, he's an in-your-face guy.
Yeah.
He did, I noticed Zion had like 5 fouls the other night, and I think Watson was on him. So I think that anyway, that Denver is a really good team.
Yeah. And Jokic coming back probably in 3 weeks or something like that. If
rested, hopefully not fat.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But yeah, no, it's gonna be a blast the next 41. You guys can read Britt's column over at MinPost on the first 41 games of the season, and we'll be back next week to do another one. We'll see how much what this weekend looks like.
Postmortem, right?
Yeah, Texas postmortem. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have low expectations for this weekend, but I really don't know, because that Houston, we haven't seen them play Houston.
Right.
And then that San Antonio game, as great as the fourth quarter was, the first half was rough. Like
well, they have won like
expect.
6 of the 8 quarters. It's just that the fourth quarter, they've just been dominated by the Wolves.
Yeah.
And so, but they may have the same feeling that OKC had against them.
Yeah.
Like, this team is not going to beat us again.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see.
We will see. Coming up next on the show will be the live show at Treasure Island on Saturday before that San Antonio game. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about the Houston game. Kyle and I will. But then, we'll hang out at Treasure Island and do a little, I don't know what that episode will be exactly in advance of the Spurs matchup, but that will be next up in your feed. And then we'll be back, next Monday with Jace moving through the second half of the season. Until Treasure Island with Kyle on Saturday. He's Britt. I'm Dane. Peace.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah. Hope you dancing like no